So growing up, one of my favorite games to play was hide and seek. Absolutely love playing that. And now, actually today is kind of a momentous occasion in the Pierce household. My daughter turned 3 today. One of her favorite games is hide and seek. So like she'll disappear. I'm like, where's she at? No idea. But I actually have a pretty good idea because she goes to one of two spots, either into her room or she goes into my bedroom and pulls the covers over her head. It's like, okay, I can't see you, you can't see me, I'm hidden. So we play this game pretty much daily. You know, as we kind of grow up, that hide and seek game kind of changes. You know, it starts as like kind of a peekaboo. I can't see you, now I can see you, you're there again. And then as we grow up, it kind of becomes like hide and seek, where you count to 10 and everybody kind of runs off and hides. As we become teenagers, some of us become really exceptionally good at hide and seek. We run off and nobody can find us. Ironically, that's a lot like life. Staying hidden isn't just something we do in a game of hide and seek. We actually start putting these areas into our lives that we don't want anybody to know about, so we kind of step away and keep that part hidden in our heart, and we don't really tell anybody about it. The more serious that situation becomes, the harder it becomes to let it out and to let anybody know, and we just kind of start holding on to those things even more. Maybe it's something you wish that wasn't a part of your life. There's always serious situations that happen in life. Maybe it escalated to something that started kind of innocently, and then it escalated, and it's something that's really bad now, and you just don't know what to do, how to help, and what to do with it. This happens in a lot of areas in our life, and one of the areas we're going to discuss tonight is kind of a really serious topic, and a lot of people, if we're not really thinking about it, if we don't know somebody, or if it's not something we struggle with, we don't even think about it. And so tonight we're talking about self-harm. So let me kind of define self-harm. Some of us just got really nervous. This is not a kind of a normal Sunday evening topic. So self-harm, we're going to define as cutting, but it could be anything you do to negatively impact how you react. So it could be cutting, it could be burning. In severe cases, you can actually have broken bones. But if any of you are involved in self-harm, we're not going to call you out on that. We're here to help you. We're here for you, just as God is. We want to show you love and respect and help you, get the help that you need so that you can break that. Some of you are sitting here kind of probably annoyed that this is a topic that you really don't want to hear about. You don't know anybody. But that's the thing, it's not, there's a significant proportion of society that this actually affects. Something like 15 to 25% of teenagers actually actively cut. It's really hard to find studies on this. It's something that's kind of like self-reported. In the last 5 to 10 years, ER visits have tripled because of self-harm. So it's really a situation that a lot more people are actively doing this, and we need to really consider and prayerfully help those that are kind of stuck in this situation. So no matter if if you know somebody, if you're actively cutting, or if you don't think you know anybody, we all need to ask and lean in to what we're going to talk about tonight. I think there's some questions that we all have. So first is, what do we do about it? So if you're someone that struggles with self-harm, you've probably asked yourself, what do I do? How do I make this better? How do I stop this? If you know people who struggle, maybe you've wondered, how can I help? What can I say? What can I do to get them to stop? We'll get to that in a minute, but first, let's make sure we're all on the same page there. So burning, pinching, intentionally hitting or bruising. These are all ways that people really do hurt themselves. Most people have some idea of what cutting is, but you may honestly wonder why people do it. So please understand something. If you are actively cutting, I don't know the specifics of your situation, and we're going to give some generalizations out. So this is, some of the reasons that people do this. So it's not every reason. And our goal here tonight is to help provide some language and some understanding of how and why, and so we can get a better idea of why this is such a big deal. So when it comes to why people cut, the simplest way to explain it is it's a relief. So people are going through this emotional stress, problems in their life, and they don't know how to deal with it. So they begin to cut. So you've got an emotional pain, and then they use a physical pain, and that provides some sort of relief. People who cut are hurting badly, so badly in their minds and emotions that they just want the pain to stop. So they transfer the pain from their heart, and they cut. The physical pain is a way they use to kind of take their mind off that pain. That's not why everybody starts. It's not why everybody does that. But it can eventually become an addictive personality trait because it does provide a temporary relief. But the biggest thing to remember is it's not really a relief. Cutting does not work. So it provides a sense of relief. Naturally, it's triggered by experiences that are painful, like stress, family breakups, divorce, a fight with a friend, loneliness, failure, feelings of unworthiness, undesirability. Basically anything that creates pain. But it doesn't stop there. Many people who cut feel ashamed by cutting. So they get stuck in this cycle of continual cutting, and then they hide, and they don't have any healthy, effective outlet, so they continue to cut. So is there anything we can do or say to ourselves or a friend that will even help? Well, I wouldn't be up here talking if I didn't think there was something we could do. I'm convinced that God has a great plan for each and every one of us that involves being free from self-harm. But getting there may take a little different approach than kind of what we usually think of. And just to be clear, if you're actively cutting, what I say tonight's not going to necessarily stop that immediately. This may be a lifelong struggle with some people, but there are things you can do. We can leave today with an understanding of just how to take one big, bold, powerful step toward freedom. Ironically, we get that powerful freedom step from a guy named Paul. Paul wrote several books. One of the last books he wrote was the book of Philippians. You might remember, if you read Paul's story in, I think it's Acts 20, he's stuck in prison. And he's stuck, and it's midnight, and he starts singing songs to God, singing glory and praise and honor to Him. And magically, not magically, but the power of God creates this earthquake that releases releases his bonds, and he escapes from prison. the jailkeeper becomes one of the first Christians in Philippi, which is in Europe. So he becomes one of the first European Christians. So fast forward about 10 years, and Paul's writing a letter to the same group of people, but now he's stuck in prison again. He doesn't know what's going to happen. Doesn't know, am I going to get out of this? Am I going to be all right? But he chooses joy. The theme of the book of Philippians, if you read, and I highly encourage you all to read it over the next couple of days. You can read it in about 10 minutes. But the theme is basically joy and rejoicing. 16 times he talks about either joy or rejoicing. So, he's now in prison again, and he could, be super depressed about it. But instead he says, I'm going to find, my strength and my glory and everything in God. And he kind of ends the letter on this note. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I want to concentrate on that word think. This word is where we get our word logic. It's kind of the Greek base word for our logic. We could take an account. The word means kind of take an account, to dwell on, to meditate. So it's not really something we just think about and then go on. And these are the things that we need to actually be filling our minds with. The mind is a very powerful thing. A guy in prison, if he's thinking on pure and lovely and holy and wonderful, admirable things, what's he not thinking about? He's not thinking about his chains. He's not thinking about all the things that would depress him, that would hold him down, hold him back. The mind is a powerful thing. Think about that. Your mind ultimately controls your entire body. So if you're hungry, your mind says, go get some food. You walk, and if you don't, your mind just keeps sending you that message like, hey, your stomach's growling. Go get food. But our minds also control our emotions and our feelings. If you sit and dwell on something that's really depressing or really sad, one of my personal favorite books, Where the Red Fern Grows, very sad story. The dogs die. Spoiler alert. Every time I read that book, I cry. It makes me cry because there's this emotion that is just brought out in that book. So what do we do though? We could either dwell on those things that are sad and unhappy, but instead Paul says concentrate on the good things. Concentrate on the things that matter. Concentrate on the truth. Too often in our culture, we buy into the lie. We buy into this lie that, we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not smart enough, we don't measure up, our grades aren't good enough, we're never going to matter. But that's not true. All those things are lies. So think on the truth. Well, how do you do that? Sometimes, you can't see the truth because it's right here, and it's really personally affecting you, and you're kind of stuck in the lie. So you've got to have a really close group of friends to pull that out, to show you the truth. And that's why God invented the church. That's why each of us are here. If you're struggling with self-harm, there's somebody that can help you right here. They're called your small group leader. They are your best friend or your friend that's sitting here, listening with you. That's why the church is here, to help one another. To rejoice in our sadness, to rejoice in the good times and the bad. God has the power to help us overcome. But we have to be honest. We have to let the church be the church. We have to be honest with each other. Opening up with that small group leader, that's hard. It takes a lot of trust in that person that I'm not gonna, or they're not gonna tell something that is gonna get out, and you've got to really develop that trust with them. So like I said, you can definitely reach out to your small group leader, reach out to Zach or me, talk to each other. So if you have a friend that's self-harming and you know about it, kind of think through that of what gives them hope, what could give them hope, what could give them a reason not to be depressed, not to feel that hurt. How can they get through that? How can you be that light? If you're here and you're cutting, like I said, nothing I'm saying right now is, earth-shattering and mind-blowing. I mean, it's just not. But God is. There's nothing that God can't do. And He can give us power to overcome everything that we could imagine. Would you guys pray with me?